Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. So I had a pretty good day, given the circumstances. I think I'm just going to put a voiceover that I just did for my playlist at the end of this video, and that'll talk about that. I had another little episode, not as bad as the other ones, and it kind of got resolved, and I did the meditation. I think it was just an intense day. Um, it was still Saturday, February 28th, but it's 11 o'clock, so this day is almost over. And I haven't checked the news in a while. I'm not sure what's going on and what's escalating and what's happened. But I just wanted to say this. We've seen this with all of these wars. The wars in Libya, the wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, they're all failures, right? So America had success going in and doing army stuff, killing people and taking over territory and occupying territory. But after that, it was complete failure. And all these wars have failed. Iraq is a mess. Libya is a mess. Iran is going to be a mess. Um, Afghanistan's a mess, right? We had to withdraw, spend a lot of money, killed a lot of people, lost American soldiers, gave away a lot of treasure and equipment, and the place is worse off now than it was before, more destabilized. Nothing's been settled, regime change, but nothing there, other than the profit that's made by war, the war profiteer, all those kind of things, but nothing in terms of, you can't look at any of those things as success. Remember George W. Bush, he had this thing where he was on the deck of an aircraft carrier and it said mission accomplished. But what happened was America went in and the troops, the elite Iraqi Republican Guard and all these various, Iraqi troops just withdrew and faded away. They put away their uniforms, they, hid their weapons and things, and they folded back into the population. And America thought that they had, basically surrendered and there was going to be no resistance, but then they had all those militia type of, insurgent wars that America isn't good at fighting. America's good at fighting another military. They're not trained for this door-to-door disarming of people. So eventually they made a deal with the Republican Guard and they became ISIS. You remember that. And they gave them an oil field and the place is destabilized. But you can't call any of that a success. 1 million dead Iraqis and just, no purpose to it. And, Trump is a loser and just a horrible person. And he is a failure. And this war didn't come about for any organic reason. And it's, the only thing that you can say is based in God, backed by God, is that's there to destroy America and destroy the paradigm. I talk about how there's been a shift. I feel there's a shift. Personally, everything's changed, not because of this war, but because it was just this day. There's these days in your life where nothing's the same afterwards. And I feel like this period of time that I've gone through, the playlist I put together about the fear, cleaning out the fear and stuff, and the gratefulness meditation. And I talk about this. You can hear it I'm going to put that voiceover. Hopefully I'll remember to put that voiceover in the video at the end of the thing. Again, it's 11 o'clock at night, but hopefully I'll remember tomorrow. Because this video is not going to get up till Monday, but hopefully I'll do it first thing in the morning and I'll figure that out. But anyways, this thing's going to end badly. And there's the prophecies and the things that are here for the Whispers of Brighter World and the work that's being done to make all these changes and to get rid of a demonic system and bring in something better. That's going to happen. And so, I didn't know whether this prophecy was going to be to the day. And it it was to the day. I mean, today's the day that started. And I didn't know what kind of thing it was going to be. Like, I didn't know it was going to be a solar flare or a nuclear bomb or alien invasion, whatever it might be. There's some kind of big event. And, it could be something where everybody, freaks the fuck out and goes to grocery stores like it did with COVID. And, that's it. Like, the system as we now know it is not available anymore. And, I was worried about that. So since that didn't happen, we have more time. Like, I feel like there's a sense of urgency and, a sense of urgency for people to connect to the divinity within them. Maybe the people are feeling that. I don't know. Certainly for me to dive deeper into my spiritual practice and my wife and I to set up our homestead better and do what we got to do. do the things we need to do to prepare for what's coming. It's always good to have some kind of, be willing to adjust yourself, and we have more time. Like, we have more time, and I don't know how much more time, but there's more time, right? We don't know if it was going to be economic collapse or depression. Like, I didn't know. For 20 years, I knew something was coming. I didn't know what it was and how it would manifest. And now, you can kind of see it unfolding. So in all that, it's just that this isn't going to end well, and it can't, because how could it, right? I'm pretty tired now. Let me just, I'll continue this on tomorrow, but I just wanted to say that. All right, so that's it for now. Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Still Sunday, March 1st. I just completed the video for Monday morning. And, I wanted to clarify some things. And, I think that I got a lot of comments with people saying, you called this, and like, a sense that I predicted it, which clearly wasn't the case because of the whispers of the brighter world. I believed in something because of my experiences. I talked about that at the end of the last video. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. There's ways that people can be convinced that something comes from God. There's people like David Koresh, who was a, brilliant biblical scholar. Like, he was somebody who could interpret and out preach the average preacher. Like, he could make these compelling arguments. He was made this case that he was coming down to open the seventh seal in the Bible. And he was able to convince these people because of his prowess. If you've ever watched the Waco movies, they're both really good. There's a 2-part series. I enjoyed, I would say enjoyed, but very compelling, interesting things. But, he had something. David Koresh had something for his people. Like, I wouldn't have followed him, but, there's people who would, right? And, when people are being convinced that something is from God, there's ways that they have evaluated it. One would be miracles, right? That's, some of the things, and you hear about miracles, people who saw miracles. And yet, people saw Jesus do miracles, and they still betrayed him, right? And so miracles are, there's something, and they can be done not only by Jesus, by other people. It's not that hard to do miracles or manipulate material reality in a way using divine powers of one kind or another. Another one is prophecies. You predict the future, and people are like, "Oh my God, you must know. If you can predict the future, then you must know what's going to come." And people buy into that, and that's never been the purpose of these prophecies. In the whispers of the brighter world, was never used to convince people. In fact, in the whispers of the brighter world, there's this rich French lady who was injured as a kid, and she's basically, she can't leave her house, and she's a talented medium, and she's not a truther, and she's not any of these doomsday kind of person. And she starts getting these messages, and they're pretty graphic and pretty descriptive of what's going to come. And she doesn't want to write them down. Like, she doesn't want anybody else to see them, because she thinks that they're going to think that she's crazy and all this stuff. And, and he says over and over again, "Don't worry about this. This isn't for you." And he says it in the prophecy messages. He says it throughout. Just write these things down. They're not for you. They don't have anything to do with you. You don't have to believe them. You just write them down. And she didn't really believe them. Like, she was hearing them from a divine being. And, so there's that. The way that I have been, bought into the Sajmark system is the system wins your heart through transmitting divine energy and divine love into your heart, so much so that you become, I don't want to say addicted to it, but it's something you can't live without. And it's something that, is compelling and convincing. And, the struggles of the masters of the system to impart all of these things to people, and the suffering that they go through to travel, and the bullshit they have to put up with all the people. I mean, all of us who knew what was going on and knew, all the stuff that Master Charji had to put up with and what Babaji had to put up with. And, just difficulties that they had to endure so that they could, give this gift to all of us it's compelling, right? Like, they won our hearts in one way or another. They had ways of winning a person's heart. You win a person's heart, there's nothing better than that, right? in terms of like loyalty and all those things. And it's a bond of love, right? There's a loving bond, and you can see this in your own lives and the lives of others. You can appeal to people's anger and hatred as a politician, like Trump does. You can appeal to their sense of superiority, their sense of hatred and prejudice for these other people, whatever it is, their insecurities and their fear. And those all work. Fear and, fear and temptation. Bob, as you talked about how in the, many of these religions, of course, they do this in the Bible, but not just Christianity, these other religions, they use fear and temptation. The fear of hell and the temptation, the promise of heaven, right? And so, you're going to get something if you stick with us, and you're going to be punished if you don't, right? All these people that are compelled in these ways, using fear and using these, fear is a motivating factor, fear and abuse and, all these things. But it's just, the people are just waiting for the day that they can, step on your throat the way you're stepping on theirs, right? Like it's, you never really have them. Like you can force them, you can use force, but force always backfires. That's why the Sajmark system is the forceless force, right? And so when I started doing the meditation so many years ago, I had these deep, profound experiences of God's love and, and a heartfelt experience, my first initial 3 sittings, that I was hooked. Like I would believe anything because of the experiences I had. And I continued to have these experiences, and I continued to be so impressed and inspired by the work of the masters. Now, I never met the guy Babaji. He died in 1983. I was 1 year after I graduated high school. And, he wrote these diaries and things, and he said things like he was ordered to start World War II. Like he had to put together a divine will, Sankalpa, and make World War II happen. Now, that's kind of an audacious claim, right? And for the average person, you're not going to believe that shit. Why would you believe it? That some guy in India was, it's grandiose. It's the kind of thing that Trump would brag about, right? So he wasn't bragging. He's just writing the shit in his diary. But I, believed it because of the experiences I had had in the system, right? So when I say these things with the whispers of the brighter world, why would you believe them? But for me, I had such profound experiences with the whispers of the brighter world, the messages themselves. I started to want to learn more about some of the things that were being said, so I started doing research, a lot of the truther things, and that's where I ended up doing this channel from that. It had a lot to do with a lot of things, these messages from this French woman. And, I could see the world going, too. I mean, I could see it. We could see what's happening with the world. And it made it easier for me to accept because, I said this thing, like the title of my first video, let me pull it up here. I said, the doomsday prophecy has begun as nutless puppet Trump WWE's World War III as Beatty pulls the strings. Now, that's not really an accurate title to what I believe. Coming up with titles, and it's a whole fucking hassle, but it's not, it's not the best title in terms of what I believe, right? What I believe is this isn't a prophecy of doomsday. This is work that was done by the second master of the system, that he was ordered to. And, I read this, My Vision chapter in the last video, that he was ordered to collapse the current system and bring about a spiritual awakening. And a certain amount of events and plans had to be in place, and there had to be someone on this planet to do that, because God doesn't have a mind. God has a will, and God has a plan, but doesn't have a mind. So, higher developed souls have to be able to read God's plan and read what needs to happen and adjust things and make things happen using, basically writing some divine script. So, I don't think this is a doomsday. I think this is the end of a demonic system. And I certainly don't think BB is pulling the strings. I mean, he is with Trump, but, so that's accurate. It's not inaccurate, but it's not what I believe, right? I believe that this is part of a divine plan, to bring down a system that needs to be brought down, and then to build something better in its place, where people rise up to a higher level and evolve in a spiritual way that is, they'll be just different people. Like people will just be on a higher level of consciousness, and will be, operating with a, more of a ESP kind of thing, more of a, a connection to divinity, more sensitive and caring of other people, like, just being saints, right? If you think about the great saints that have lived in this world, and the highest developed ones, and if everyone could reach that level, then what kind of society would we have, right? What kind of world would we have? It would be transformed. And so that's the plan, right? And so when Babaji said he was ordered to start World War II, he also said that he was hearing prayers from both the Germans and Americans and the other countries, right? Like he was hearing all these prayers, "Lord, kill our enemies," and they were all praying, like how does he answer those prayers, right? Like this, when you become as you develop spiritually, you start hearing these things and being affected by them, but by on a physical level and on a conscious level, you see things and hear things and that are connected to divinity. But like I think it's very compelling, and I don't know if this validation of this prophecy, because there's a lot of people that left comments, people are maybe interested in, I mean, again, it's you don't know anything about it because you haven't you don't believe it because you haven't had the experiences, right? Like I've had the experience to make whatever these guys say, these masters of the Seismark system. I believe them because they've proven over and over again that they are operating on a higher level of existence. And so some of the things I've experienced and some of the things, you can always pray to God to show you, and there's ways of doing that, which is also advised in the system. Ask God to show you if this is true, if you don't believe it, if you doubt it, these kind of things. But for you guys, like you haven't had this experience of the Seismark system, you might trust me to whatever extent, which I'm not a big fan of, but you listen to me and you think, well, hey, maybe this guy has something. And so, but it's my trust in the system, the Seismark system, and the words and the actions and the teachings and in this case, the prophecies. And now this started, the beginning of this one prophecy, because this is going to be, more than just this one. It's not a one-off, right? My wife was out. She just came home. We're going to go for a walk. But I remember we were walking around the pasture, and, I was talking about this. So this is probably 2017 or 18, and she was, not believing in these things. And I was like, I mean, there's no way to convince her. I didn't care. It's like something she has to see for herself. But over time, she could just see what was happening in the world and became more and more convinced that, it wasn't going to make it. Right. And so, now, of course, so many years later, I mean, it's so more obvious, I think, to everybody. Like this, people are realizing there's no solution here. There's no fucking happy ending. There's no, they can't calculate. There's things in your life, this happened with my daughter, Anna, where I would think about, like, how could her course of her existence be reversed? Like, how could, what could happen in her life? Of course, a lot of people are troubled when they're kids. They have difficulties, and then they, something wakes up in them and something emerges from them inside, and they, and I just hoped that would happen. Like, I just, because I was like, I didn't know how she could hold a job, or how could she do so, like how have kids and be in a relationship. And like she was so erratic and emotional and fiery and, aggressive and just, I mean, just and oversensitive and also but brutal at the same time. She was like, she had talents and abilities, but she just, couldn't function in a social situation. She had friends and a lot, but just was creating a lot of drama everywhere she went. And I'm like, it was like I was trying to figure out a way, like it would just something would happen, like you would just have these, these hopes. And of course, she ended up committing suicide, having a bad acid trip, which in some irresponsible person. I mean, she was the last person that I think should own a gun, and one of her friends gave her a gun, which is unthinkable to me. And so, but like you start seeing things like that in your life where you realize, well, maybe you win the lottery or some shit like that, but for the most part, you're fucked. Like or somebody else is fucked, and you just can't, or all of us are fucked, and and at some point you realize it, and you're just like, all right, well, what does that mean? Like, what do I do now? And so, and I say the number one thing is to find divinity within you, because that's always an asset, no matter what the circumstances are. That's always the most and best important thing, finding your soul's path, finding the divinity within you. You can look at the Gratefullness meditation. You can try some of the meditations there. It's always free. And the whole practice is there for people to do. All right, let me get going here, but I just want to say those things. Okay, so I just, went with a walk with my wife, and I decided to add something to this. I was already going to close this down. You know, the thing about it is, I believe in the books, right? Like people who believe in the Bible believe in the Bible. You know, people believe in the teachings of this thing or that thing, right? People who believe in Trump believe in Biden. You know, they believe that this war is about fucking nuclear weapons, whatever. People believe Israel's the promised land, whatever it might be, right? People believe in stuff or not. And sometimes it's true and sometimes it isn't, right? And so really it is about what you have faith in and what you believe in. And one of the things that kind of stunned me was that I realized the majority of people that are called Abhyasis, the ones that do the meditation, the Sajmark meditation, didn't read the books. And if they did, they cherry-picked and didn't believe them. They're still doing rituals and living their indoctrination even though they weren't supposed to. Whatever their religion, especially the people who are Hindu, doing Hindu rituals that their family taught them to do that were counterproductive to doing the Sajmark system actually hurt the system. They really didn't have faith in the system and the teachings and certainly these prophecies, right? They would say it's all the same. You know, you have to believe in something, so it's, you know, it's good if it's right. You know, it's good if it's accurate. Like, you know, I mean, there were some things with the Sajmark system, the way it went down with Dodgy, things that, you know, weren't part of the plan as far as we knew and we weren't prepared for. Like, we didn't prepare for Dodgy to be a total piece of shit. And so that, you know, the credibility of the system took a little bit of a hit. And, you know, he was endorsed by Babaji and the Whispers and Charji, you know, the master that was alive, you know, when Charji was alive. And so, you know, all that made it like, why'd you pick such a piece of shit, right? And, you know, the master's responsible for the disciple, right? The master leaves a disciple behind, and, you know, everybody wants to leave, every master, every saint wants to leave a disciple that will carry on the work, and it almost never happens. And there were three good ones. There's, you know, two good ones, two successors, and then Dodgy was a piece of shit, which is, you know, more often what happens as you move along the timeline, you know, with the popes and all these other people, you know, all these various religions. And so, you know, but it's turned out that this thing has been validated to whatever extent, but I expected that because of my experiences. But anyways, let's move on to the other things here. Okay, so here we are. I just did a voiceover, so I'm not going to say greetings. Monday, March 2nd. This video is going up tomorrow in the afternoon, and then one on Wednesday, and then I'd take Thursday off, most likely. And, you know, couple of things here. Let's start here with this thing with Trump.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury.
Epic Fury. It's fucking Fury that's epic. It's Fury, but it's Epic Fury. It's the biggest. It's kind of, you know, I mean, sometimes there's Fury, but it's not epic.
One of the largest, most complex.
You know, like fucking, what are you guys, children? Are you fucking children? Operation Epic Fury. Like fucking, what are you guys, like in some little club? Like, you're not children. Like,
most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen.
No one's seen anything like this.
Seen anything like it.
No one's ever seen anything like this thing. The world has never seen anything like it.
We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes.
Minutes we did that. Fucking minutes. It's just we have the best military because I rebuilt it. You remember, guys? Thank you for your service.
Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead.
Thank you for your service.
This wretched and vile man had the blood of hundreds and even thousands.
How many was it? Was it hundreds or thousands? Was it 100,000s? You know who doesn't have any blood is Israel. They don't have any blood on their hands. Everything they do is they're the victim, like constantly. They haven't killed anybody. Netanyahu doesn't have the blood of 300,000 children on his hands. You know, none of that shit, right?
Of Americans on his hands, and was responsible for the slaughter of countless thousands of innocent people all across many countries. Last night, All over Iran, the voices of the Iranian people could be heard cheering and celebrating in the streets when his death was announced.
Exactly. They're all. It's like he's got 0% of backing. Like he had no popularity, just like Gaddafi, who had 70%. No, that this guy was a shitty leader, but still, right?
The entire military command is gone as well, and many of them want to surrender into saving their lives. They want immunity. They're calling by the thousands.
By the thousand, they're calling. They have my number. They said, get the call. I'm picking up in the middle of the night. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what it is in Iran, but they're calling me. They're like, "Hey, President Trump, this is a guy from Iran. I'm a general. I need immunity."
Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until all of our objectives are achieved. We have very strong objectives.
Very strong objectives. The strongest objectives. I mean, our objectives are the strongest. What are those objectives?
They could have done something 2 weeks ago, but they just couldn't get
So
there.
you're not going to tell us what those objectives are? All right, so we're going to come back to this. So Trump is in Gaggelin, right? So here he is coming in.
Unbelievable statues. You'll see.
President Trump hasn't taken a single question from reporters on camera since launching this major attack against Iran over the weekend, despite having multiple opportunities to do so. Given this
To do so.
the president, who rarely passes up an opportunity to speak to the press when the cameras are around, it stood out to us when he did not do so at all as he flew back from his Mar-a-Lago club in Florida, where he authorized these strikes over the weekend.
He was in Mar-a-Lago when he fucking authorized these strikes.
Top aides, and headed back to Washington, landing at the White House and returning without taking any questions from the reporters who are very much trying to get inside his mindset when it comes to Iran and what could happen next year, especially following the deaths of 3 U.S. service members. As the president did go back to the White House, though, there was one comment he made to the press, and that was about new statues that he has installed in the White House Rose Garden.
Unbelievable statues.
Unbelievable statues. I thought the way he said. Oh my God. So, all right, there's that. And I want to comment on that. Let's go back to the other thing here. Okay, so one of the talking points for the Democrats is that Trump has no plan for what happens after the fucking Operation Epic. Was it Epic Fury? Fucking child. They get really cunty. Which of course he doesn't. When his plan was, and he's being handled, which I'll get into in a moment because I just don't want to continue with that last clip I showed you, the Caitlin Collins thing, because these are the two talking points. That Trump is being completely different about this, and he has no plan. So when his plan is to say to the Iranian people, "This is your chance to take over and create a government," how hard it is to create a fucking government. You have a government, and you can keep it going with the fact that nobody wants it not to have a government, right? Like people say, "Oh, I don't want a government," but the reality is, when they realize what that's going to mean to them personally, they're like, "Oh, let's keep a government." You can try to get rid of a government. Look at what happened with the fucking Doge stuff, right? Like the Doge, they couldn't do anything with the Doge. They were trying to audit stuff and do whatever. But even as inefficient as our government is in some ways, it's way more efficient than many other governments, right? And, it's just what we have. And, you get rid of it, it fucks everything up. Like, you can look at the places where we've taken regime change. Just look at them. All of them. We know what happens. It's chaos because you have people with power, and it's usually bully-like, gang-like power. It's always that, not usually. And they bully the crap out of them, right? They bully the crap out of the people, and they're fighting with each other. It becomes like gang warfare, and there's no oh, let's sit down and use common fucking sense. People are like, all right, we've got thugs, and let's grab some power, right? And that's what happens. But here, let's listen to this guy first here.
But the president seems to have no plan for the aftermath, and it looks like Iran is now poised to choose a new leader from the current regime in the same way that Venezuela is being run by a leader who is Maduro's Right.
Okay, so that's so that's the first part, right? This number one video here. So here it is here.
Donald Trump has launched a
It's Ann Applebaum.
full-scale bombardment of Iran without the consent of Congress, without really making the case to the American people. But what disturbs me the most is that he has also launched it without a real plan for the Iranian people and for the emergence eventually of a legitimate Iranian state, which is determined by the will of the Iranian people and is run for the benefit of the people of Iran. Over the last more than 40 years now, we've had an Iranian regime that was fanatical, that tried to spread its totalitarian ideology.
Okay, so we know, you get the idea. There's multiple videos about this. So it's a talking point, right? It's a talking point because it's real. Let's switch back over to Trump here. So there's one more thing I forgot to show you here. This is Senator Andy Kim.
With regime change, you don't always get what you want. President Trump cannot look us in the eye and say that he can.
Wait, with regime change, you don't always get what you want? You you don't always get what you don't. It's like Secret Santa regime. You know?
Guarantee that the next leader will be more stable and better for the United States.
They'll in fact be less moderate, more hard-minded.
It could very well be the case. Many that have studied this, we have talked about.
Okay, so there's that, right? Back to Trump here.
Earlier today, CENTCOM shared the news that 3 U.S. military service members have been killed in action.
Thank you for your service.
As
That one really wasn't. That was one, but it wasn't. It was appropriate for the.
one nation, we grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation.
Yeah, they're not doing it for a nation. They're doing it for Israel. You fuck. Tell the truth. You just 3 Americans just died because of you being butt fucked by Netanyahu, right?
Even as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives, we pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more.
Okay, so here's the thing. 3 things here. What he just said. American casualties, and remember, they wouldn't show the coffins coming back from Iraq. And it's fucked up that people are like, feel so much more about people that they have nothing to do with in terms of the military personnel in America, just because they're Americans, but don't give a shit about Palestinian children, right? You think that somehow you're connected to these people because they come from the same country, and they program people to think about military people, but it's everybody who dies in war. You got to think about everybody. If you're a godly person, God doesn't discriminate. God doesn't, with America, God doesn't, there's whatever people fucking believe. God doesn't, God doesn't have a mind, but God created everybody, right? So, animals, plant life, any kind of destruction that you do, you have to think about it. Like, is it, do I have permission to do this? Ask God, do I have permission to do this? The divinity within you, and you get an answer. Like, you will get an answer. If you ask God anything, the answer will come in some form, and you just have to, be willing to hear the answer you don't want to hear. But he's trying to sell something that the people didn't want in the first place, right? Like, there's going to be more casualties. Well, to the 20% of people that still think you're great, those dumb fucks that are just, worthless people that have no, I guess maybe they have some kind of redeeming value in society, but they're, in terms of politics, in terms of understanding what's going on and being able to see through this motherfucker, no, right? So the second piece is the Caitlin Collins things, which is, they're all saying this. Trump is doing something he's never done before. So he released the first message, which was a recorded message, which they edited. I show you the edits. Remember, I pointed out there was 2 times it stopped without any, it stopped and there was some time, and then it continued, where he said something where they said, no, you got to edit that out. So, like, he never gets edited. Trump doesn't like being edited. Trump doesn't like to be censored. He doesn't like, he likes to just wing it, right? So he goes out and he just talks shit. And he's like, I can say anything. And he says so many outrageous things, it's just like people get used to it. He gets away with saying fucking horrible shit and just stupid shit all the time. because he says so much of it. Just like Joe Biden got used to like just being senile, like everyone got used to him just doing senile shit, and he had done so much of it, it didn't stand out anymore, right? But Trump, they put up this message at 2:00 in the morning, the first one, and then this one, right, where he's being, scripted and handled in a way that we've never seen. Like they're hiding him away. Like this is the first time Trump's like always out there. Like, you can't hide Trump. And even if they tell him like don't take questions, he'll go take questions anyway. He doesn't listen to people. And they're hiding him away. Like he's fucking, whatever he's being handled. Like he's scared shitless or something. Whatever they've told him, whatever they're doing to him, they're like he's a different thing. It's a different Trump. And he doesn't have a plan because Israel wants chaos. They want chaos in Iran because chaos in Iran, they'll be fighting amongst themselves. It'll be like a civil war. Like every country has different points of view. They have modern people there. They have the people that like the religious rule. They have all these, this stuff that's going on there. And so, all these differences will come out. And you'll have different groups and different powerful groups. And, you'll have political power. Then you have thug-like power, right? You have the military power. You have all these things, right? You have, and you have chaos. You don't have a system of government. Like, do we get a democracy? And when you go in there, you try to force it as an occupying force, which would mean we'd have to have ground troops. As soon as you leave, that government falls apart. We've seen that with all these countries. Afghanistan, which went back to the Taliban, and the Taliban are stronger than ever, right? Like, so, that didn't fucking work. And then what's happened in Libya, there's total chaos there. And, they had a good government. They were making progress. But when you just take away the leadership, you just can't just slap a government in there. It has to come out organically from the people. And it takes like 100 years before a country's settled. Iran is still fucked from the last time we did a regime change. We did a regime change there with Operation Ajax, which was far less, destructive than this thing is. And they still don't have a stable government, right? We're still unhappy with it. And so it's good for Israel. Like Israel wants all these countries to be in chaos around them because they can control what they can control without having to deal with this stuff. They don't have time to like fire on Israel because they're too busy fucking fighting amongst themselves. They're a destabilized country, right? This is great for Israel. This is what they want. So there's no plan because they don't want a plan. The plan is chaos.
Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case. But America will avenge their deaths and deliver the most...
Avenge their deaths? You're the one who's fucking... What are you talking about, avenge their deaths? You're the aggressor here. You're the fucking asshole. Iran didn't do anything. Iran did nothing. They didn't attack us. There's no avenging. We fucked their country up 60 years ago, and we're fucking it up again. You're doing this because you're being puppeted by a third-party country that has that does nothing for us. The American people are turning on. We're waking up to it. Fucking, I mean, it's bad for them. Like, right, it's the worst it's been for Israel. It's going to get worse now. And so, like, what are you talking to avenge their deaths? Right?
Finishing blow to the terrorists who have waged war against basically civilization. They have waged war against civilization itself.
See, we're the evil empire. Like, he's Darth Vader. Like, America is doing shit all over the world to keep our lifestyles going. That's what we are. Like, we're not the heroes that, this is just what evil empires do. They make up excuses and pretend to be a victim when there's no victimization. Usually they do a false flag or they do something, but this time they said, fuck it. Mobilize all our fucking ships over there, and we're just going to bomb the shit out of them. You can tell this is going to end badly because he doesn't have to hold the plan for their government, whatever's going to happen next. He can release that, right? Like, they have plans. So it's not clear. I didn't complete my thought there, so let me add this to it, and we'll replay that clip again there. Well, you can't divulge your war plans, and Trump says that, which is true. Like, you can't say you can't say what your plans are for war and what you're going to do. Like, fucking, that'd be stupid, right? It's like giving away your playbook in football. You don't do that. So that's fine. But in terms of what happens afterwards, the rebuilding of the country, they know what it's going to take, right? They've done this before. They've done regime change. They destroyed Iraq and Afghanistan. They know what it's like to try to infuse a country with a government. We see what happened in Libya, which is still in chaos, right? So many years later. We know what happened in Iran 60 years ago. So they're not going to tell you what their plan is to rebuild it, because you're not going to want to hear it, or you're going to want to hear it. You're going to that's fucked. Like with Gaza. What's your plan for Gaza? Trump said he wants to put a fucking hotel in, right? We saw all that bullshit. And so he could tell you what the plan is, because they have one, or they have no plan, which is just to leave it in chaos, which is what their plan is, right? But, it costs a lot of money to rebuild the country and to put all that, money, effort into, military bases there, whatever, occupying it, ground forces, all that stuff. And so the plan afterwards would tell you what they're going to do going forward. Whether they're going to use ground forces or they're going to put boots on the ground, these things, right? And so let me replay that clip again here. But there's no reason why he can't tell you. There's no reason why he can't tell you what their plan is afterwards. They just don't have one, or one that would make sense, right? You can tell this is going to end badly, because he doesn't have to hold the plan for their government, whatever's going to happen next. He can release that, right? They have plans. The military has been wanting to invade Iran, or wanting to do regime change there, or do any of these things, for probably 30 years. Like the neocons, I don't even know when this, it's been talked about forever. Even after the first, the military has plans on Iran, right? They have multiple scenarios. And, as they get different kinds of weaponry and technology and things like this, they've been, they have focused on Iran. Remember, George W. Bush called it the axis of evil. It was Iran, it was North Korea, and who am I missing here? It was some other country. I don't think it was China. I'll also search it in a moment. But there's things called the axis of evil. And Iran was one of the countries. Iran's always talked about. As long as we've been so-called allies with Israel, Iran's going to be on the table, and Iran is there. It's always like when Wesley Clark said, we're going to invade 7 countries in 5 years, Iran was the big one. Iran was the one they wanted to get. They've always wanted to get Iran, right? It was on the table for Obama. It was on the table for, all these various people, and they were looking for a way to do it, would be legitimate. Some way that they could say, we're going to do this because, the Gaddafi thing, there was no reason to do him. There's no reason. They had zero. He was cooperating fully, but he was doing the gold dinar. They had a reason, but that wasn't enough, reason they could say, right? That wasn't, there's reasons they can't say. This is because they won't adopt our banking system. That they can't say that, right? But they have plans, and then they have what's going to happen afterwards. They don't think, all right, let's just do this and see what's going to happen. So they know what's going to happen afterwards. When Trump's appealing to the Iranian people to put a fucking government together, is his first message. It's they don't have anything. They would release it to you. Even a bullshit thing that can't happen, they would just release it. And so, they're just taking down the regime and, doing all this shit because Israel's making him, right? And this is their last chance, and they're going to turn this into a chaotic state of 90 million people with oil money and weaponry, and and there's going to be division. And this is, like I said, what Israel wants, right? Destabilize and weaken all these countries around them. And so, they're bombing everybody. Last night they were bombing in Lebanon, and they were hitting cities. They hit Beirut. They're saying they're going after Hezbollah there or whatever, but they're bombing. Israel's fighting in other countries right now. There's a war is going on. And so, he's being so handled right now. And this is he's just the fucking patsy. This is a walking patsy. He's going to be disgraced after this. This is all the stuff that people said about Donald Trump is going to be, it's going to be magnified, right?
Our resolve, and likewise that of Israel, has never been stronger. America is now, again, the richest, most powerful nation in the world by far.
What did it say about Israel here? What?
They have waged war against civilization itself. Our resolve, and likewise that of Israel, has never been stronger. America is now, again, the richest, most powerful nation in the world by far. But the only reason we enjoy the quality of life that we do and the
Let's go to
freedom
Israel. Let's just have it.
and security is we have done things that others are unable to do. But it's because of warriors who are willing to lay down their lives to do battle with our enemies. And they do battle better than anybody. An Iranian regime armed with long-range missiles and nuclear weapons would be a dire threat to every American. We cannot allow a nation that raises terrorist armies to possess such weapons.
They weren't trying to possess them. We get it. We know this. You could have done this your first term then, right? You could have done, all the presidents could have done this. Like, it's, even Saturday Night Live was joking about this, right? So.
Would allow them to extort the world to their evil will.
So how many people you think actually believe this is about them having a nuclear weapon? 20%? The diehard Trumpers that just won't get it. And so, like, he's just, lying to you in a way that they know that no one's going to believe this. They're just, this is the fuck you lie. We're just going to say this, and we're just going to hide them away. And the media isn't going to say we're being puppeted by Israel, but it's going to be said everywhere else. Like, he's going out as a complete puppet. Like, he's, as big and tough as he wants to be. And, Trump always tries to be the big man. He always wants to portray himself as the big man. And he is going out like a complete puppet. There's so many people are awake to the Israel thing now. Certainly the youth is. And whatever people have thought about Trump, they know that this is a war that he's doing just on it. Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly are saying it, and they're still, licking Trump's taint, like they're still trying to be in with Trump, right? Everybody fucking knows. And as this goes south, which it inevitably will, like, this is going to be on him. And it's like all this stuff that happens, and he's going to probably be dead in 5 years. So, 10, but he'll be nothing. Like, he'll be just a shell of a person. Like I said, this is what happens when they leave their presidency. It sucks the life out of you. And then he'll just be, even Obama, who's much younger than these guys, looks old. And, they just start falling apart. And, there's things that happen where, after you're done with it, it's like your life energy just disappears. You see this with people when they retire. They work their job, and as long as they got something to do. That's why farming and, running a farm is like, like for me, is like the next thing. It helps you get up every day, and you're outside in the sun, and you have purpose, and you have goals and things. And even now, what I have, this is, whatever I do here is important because it's got spiritual connotations, and it's work for God, whatever that part of my job is here. And this is something I can always do, whatever it is. But having goals and whatever your life is. I've seen these retired people. I've been around them. My parents, my dad particularly. And they retire, and they just fall apart. You guys probably seen it. My dad was like, I played golf with my dad like 4 or 5 times, and he sucked at it. And he didn't really like it. And so, he had a couple of friends, and then he had friends because my mom made friends, like whatever it is in the retirement kind of communities. They lived in Florida, but he would piss everybody off because he was like really hard to be around. Didn't like people, he's just whatever he was, right? And, he was going to play golf. What is he else going to do? Watch TV and play golf? Like, you see people when they have their time off and vacations. And, most people don't have interests and hobbies and goals and things like, well, how can I, what's my next phase of my life? And they're not being spiritual. They're not connected to God. They're not, their kids and grandkids, maybe their grandkids to some extent, don't really listen to them. My dad certainly was like this, but most people, they're not elders. They're not like people who are wise people. Usually their kids look down on them, in America, like this kind of thing. And so they just fall apart. Like, they don't have any purpose, and they start eating dinner at 4 o'clock and drinking, martinis and talking to their friends or doing whatever it is. And, if they have a social life. And it's like they don't have anything. They don't have a purpose anymore. And as soon as you don't have a purpose, you fall apart. And so, it's when presidents even more so, because it was like you have this big job. People who have, you know, they play in professional sports and things like that. You look at these athletes afterwards, and they age so quickly, like 'cause they've used up all their energy and their life's purpose. You know, people fight in wars, like they have this big thing they did, and nothing else compares to it, right? You know, no matter what they do afterwards, it's not as exciting. It's not as intense. You have a real intense job that's, you know, life or death, and it's hard for you to, you know, to find meaning in smaller things, right? And so when you're president, you're, you know, somebody important, and then you have all that taken away from you. You know, you're just some person that usually you're kind of disgraced and people don't like you, and you know, everything fades. Your popularity, no one cares about you anymore. You're, you know, somebody you used to be. This is a guy, former president, you know, this kind of thing. And so they just wither away. But, you know, so this is what they're going to do with this piece of shit.
Let it happen. We're not happening to us, and we're not going to let it happen to others. The United States has the strongest military the world has ever seen. I rebuilt our military in my first term.
Thank you for your service.
There's never been a military like we possess.
Because you rebuilt it, thank you.
And frankly, there's nobody even close, but we are now using that military for good. We want to have it.
We're using it for good. Like before we didn't, but now we're using it for good.
For good purpose. We're undertaking this massive operation not merely to ensure security for our own time and place, but for our children and their children, just as our ancestors have done for us many, many years ago. This is the duty and the burden of a free people. These actions are right, and they are necessary to ensure that Americans will never have to face a radical, bloodthirsty terrorist regime armed with nuclear weapons and lots of threats.
Yeah, so that was never going to happen. You know, that, you know, like this, that's just all lies, right? That's nothing to do with this. Like, we know that, like you guys know it. So just think about that. That's his reason. So he's got a reason, and he didn't sell it to the American people because they're not buying it. Like, they're not buying it. If he came out there and said this, you know, again, you think about all the stuff that happened after 9/11, and like a lot of people kind of know that 9/11 isn't the official story is full of shit. So that's all lies, false flag. I mean, more people than not kind of know that now. And if they don't know it, they suspect it, or they're open to the possibility, right? I would say 50% or more. So it's hard to do that again. Like, it's hard to do with that with the COVID and the vax, right? Like, it's going to be hard to do that again. You know, but they just come out and lie. And when everybody knows it's a lie, like the majority of people, and they don't trust you, then, you know, then you're just saying these things. Like, it's just like the fuck you lies. They're just, you know, this is like, you know, or else. Like, believe this or else, you know, this is what we're telling you, accept it. Because I said so. It's, you know, we know it's a lie. Well, fuck you. Shut up, right? You know, like that kind of thing.
For almost 50 years, these wicked extremists have been attacking the United States while chanting the slogan, "Death to America," or "Death to Israel," or both.
Or both. And they say both things. So you can't have them say shit like that. Like, you can't say shit like that and not have us bomb the shit out of you.
We are the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. We are the world's greatest and most powerful nation, so we can do something about what they do. These intolerable threats will not continue any longer. I once again urge the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian military, police, to lay down your arms and receive full immunity or face certain death. It will be certain death.
Certain death, you guys. Certain death.
Won't be pretty.
Won't be pretty. It'll be certain death. Like, it's certain death is never pretty. It won't be pretty, you guys. If you think we're going to do a pretty, like, our missiles aren't going to do pretty things. Like, it's not going to be pretty. It's not like we're going to paint the streets with your blood and it's going to look nice. It's not going to be fucking Andy Warhol kind of stuff. It's not going to be artistic. It's not going to be, it might be like Picasso, right?
I call upon all Iranian patriots who yearn for freedom to seize this moment, to be brave, be bold, be heroic, and take back your country.
Yeah, okay. What does that mean? Take back your country. You know, like, you know, you think that these people just have a government sitting in their hip pocket? Like, I got a government. Like, I got an idea that everyone's just going to agree to. we're all just going to agree to this idea. We're all going to work together and cooperate, because that's what human beings do. We're not going to be like yelling, fucking, like yelling at each other. Like you see in these. You ever seen one of these parliaments where they start like a brawl, where it just turns into like a riot and they start beating the shit out of each other? That's what happens. There's no, there's no like, it's easy to take a government down, and it's almost impossible to put one together, right? Like a better one. It's not like you just slap it in there. We can go back 60 years and not take out Mossadegh, and the government they had would be still there, right? They would have a good, we fucked them over 60 years ago, and now you're gonna fuck them over for another 60 years, right?
America is with you. I made a promise to you, and I fulfilled that promise. The rest will be up
What do
to
you mean? You drop bombs? You made a promise to drop bombs and missiles?
you, but we'll be there to help. Thank you. God bless you to our incredible warriors, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
So there's no press conference, nobody asking questions. He's not. And this is what he should have to do. He's got to go in front of the American people and answer the fucking questions. They won't let him. He doesn't want to. Like, there's nothing he can answer. And he said the exact same thing both nights. Like, both things are the same. He said, he just repeated himself. Bragged about rebuilding the military, bragged about the American military. Said that they're going to possess a nuclear weapon someday, so we're stopping that. That they're, and now he's added, the things he added were like there's some casualties. But he had said that before, there's going to be some. And you guys just got to eat it and get used to it. That's the price for this thing. And, he asked the Iranian people, he told the military to lay down their arms or face certain death. I mean, there was a whole thing. He just repeated the same message. There was a little variation. And he asked the Iranian people to overtake their government. He did his part by bombing the shit out of it and killing their leader. And make sure you just, like, get rid of their government. If you don't, I'm going to keep on bombing you. That's like, like, those people don't know how to do that. Like, it's, like, what, you just storm the fucking Capitol and go kill all the leaders, and then what you got? Like, fucking chaos, right? They don't have any kind of, you take down a government, you have nothing to put in its place, right? It's not like, there's just no government, right? There's no government. Like, you bombed, let's say a missile hit the White House or Washington, D.C., right? Let's say like the State of the Union, when almost the whole government's there. Like, this happened in some show, like that show with Keith Sutherland. Like, he's like I forget the name of the show, but it's basically it's a shitty show. Like, it's a good idea, but he's like the lone survivor or something like that. He's they put him somewhere else just in case everyone dies in the government. And it happens, and then he's president, right? And because there's no government left, but like, you still have state governments, shadow government, but like, and there'd be a desire to re-elect people. Let's have quick elections and, rebuild the Capitol, whatever it might be. If you're not getting bombed and there's no chaos. And if it's bomb and chaos, there's no chain of command. There's no anything, right? Who's giving the orders? So, like, you can't, then it's like, all right, what do we do now? And then people just start going apeshit. They start just fucking, there's no rule of law, like, there's no federal government, there's no whatever it is. So, on local levels, maybe you have some, people can hold it together, and there's people step up as leaders in small areas, right? But in terms of the overall country, it's chaos. And so, and we've seen it. Like, we've done regime change before. It's not like we know how to do it better. It always ends up the same way. Chaos and fucking thug rule and destabilization and like something that's worse. You take a shitty government and then it becomes worse, right? So, they're getting to do this thing, and Israel is not going to be, everybody who hates Israel's going to be whatever. But America's going to catch all the fucking blame for this, and Trump will. Because they're the ones doing it, and they're doing it on behest of Israel. All the anger, whatever countries around that a region who are going to be pissed off, like most of them will be, right? The Arab states, I mean, they're not necessarily pro-Iran, but it's like, all right, they're empowering Israel to come after us, right? So Qatar and these other countries. And then China's getting oil from Iran. So what are they going to do? Like, what when they retaliate? You know, if they're not going to retaliate now, when are they going to retaliate? Like, this is, you know, they see the writing on the wall. They say like America has to be taken down. And America was going to be taken down anyway. Like, we're failing right now economically in other ways. You know, our hold is falling apart. There's a dying empire. And so, you know, they're all vying for power. China has a plan to overtake America, and this is going to help them do it, right? And so, like, you know, what's going to happen? What's Russia going to do? They have alliance with Israel. Like, with Iran, they have the whole BRICS thing, right? What are these countries going to do? And so, you know, there's going to be something. Like, there's going to be consequences for this, like for, you know, just karma, that's because there's whatever it is. And there's no plan, you know, the fact that there's no plan, that they're just making this worse and whatever it is, and who knows when we're going to get out of this thing, right? How long is this going to last? Well, we don't know what's going to, are there going to be ground troops? Like, there's just all these things. Trump isn't saying that shit, right? Because they don't fucking know. What happens when the effects of the Strait of Hormuz being closed? What happens when oil goes up and you're paying $10 a gallon for gas and things like that, right? Or people in other countries, the European countries are now suffering because of lack of energy. They already blew up the pipeline from Russia, so like they have all these issues. You know, Trump or Biden blew up that pipeline, and so now, you know, they're suffering for, you know, what happens when they have a bad winter and they don't have any fucking fuel, and it's like, you know, so there's going to be negative. This is a bad thing. There's going to be consequences for every person as this thing unfolds, and they don't know what it's going to be. Like, you throw a rock at something, that's not work, right? Let's say you got something that's broken, it's not working, your TV, you can't just throw a rock at it. Yeah, okay, then now you've broke it permanently. You have to go buy a new TV, you know? So, like, you know, that's not work, like just randomly throwing shit and breaking shit, right? So anyways, that's this part. Okay, so Fox News is owned by Rupert Murdoch, who was the worst of the Israeli, you know, puppets or whatever he is, right? You know, they're all pro-Israel, and they won't come out and say it. Well, I'll show you some other things about this that's Israel. You know, what's being said now to Americans is Israel runs you. Like, we can do whatever we want. You know, whether you guys like us or not, whether you guys support what we're doing, we're just going to go do it. And, you know, I mean, that's the message that's being sent. And so, you know, is there going to be a counter message? Is there going to be enough candidates that run in the midterms against that or to even talk about it, right? So here, this is what Fox News is saying.
Now is Iranian-American communications strategist and political commentator Sarah Raviani. Sarah, thank you for joining us tonight. I've seen you posting on social media. This is obviously something that's very near and dear to you, and you've been very active in it. You know, the big debate right now, for me anyway, is this idea that America strikes to make America safer. The result of that might be that Iran becomes more free. As an Iranian American, what are your thoughts on that? In other words, is it...
So they show here them celebrating here.
And for regime change in Iran.
Yeah, it's certainly bravery all around there. Sarah, we're so excited to have you here. I have so many questions for you.
It's just bravery all around there. It's just everywhere. It's palpable. Right, so that's how they first started covering it. They're talking about how the Iranian people are psyched about this, right? You know, because some of them are celebrating. I'm sure they are. They have a shitty leader, right? But that doesn't mean that they're, like, you know, psyched to be having missiles dropped on their country, right? So this was an unexpected treat. Watch this fucking person. The title of this video is Iranian Americans Celebrate Streets of L.A. After Khomeini's Death.
Right now, I'm joined by Iranian-American journalist and activist Masih Alinejad. She has survived 3 assassination attempts on U.S. soil and a kidnapping plot, all launched by the Iranian regime because they wanted to take her out for the crime of encouraging women to allow their hair to be shown, to not wear a hijab, to be free and to fight for that freedom. Her own family has been held in Iran as a result of some of her bold actions in this.
So she's a shitty daughter, right? Like, she's a shitty family member. You know, like, you're not doing anything here that's going to help, that's going to change anything, and your family suffered from you being.
Country, Masih, I have watched your jubilation this morning. And I just want you to share with everyone what you're feeling. We just spoke on Friday afternoon. Yeah.
Martha, I love you. I love you. I love America. I love everything about this country. I grew up in a country.
Is he like Rosanna Dana? Like, who is this fucking person?
Where I was brainwashed to say death to America. The same country, how ironic, the same country that I wish death saved my life 3 times and now helped my people in Iran. They are celebrating. They are celebrating out of joy.
They're celebrating.
This morning I woke up, I'm like, for the first time, I woke up. Always, every morning we wake up when we hear Allahu Akbar, one person get killed, executed in Iran. But this morning was the morning of millions of Iranians seeing justice. Ali Khamenei is dead.
He's dead. He fucking dead, that motherfucker.
Gone. And this is called justice. And this is what should have been done years ago by the United States of America. Thank you, President Trump.
Thank you, Trump. You're a fucking hero. We Iranians, all the Iranians here in America who like living in America are celebrating this.
For actually taking decisive action. This is how a true leadership look like. And
This is what true leadership look like.
I know that. Like people like Zoran Mamdani, people like Ilhan Omar, they hate President Trump and they shifted their hate from President Trump to the people of Iran. They're sympathizing with our killers and saying no to war. Really?
Really? Really? Are you doing really? Really?
Lecturing us Iranians about war? We have experienced war.
All right, so this is a real treat. This woman, Masa Alinejad. Let's see if she has a social media thing here. She must. Okay, she's got Twitter. This looks promising here.
Every morning I wake up reading that my people being killed by Ali Khamenei, but this is the first morning in my life that I get the good news and I want to run. I want to run. I want to run. I want to run. I want to just run. I want to just run and shout. And shout.
You're in America. You can do it. Crazy lady. You know, things have gotten worse for a country. Like I said before, as bad as the government is, and she has personal whatever it is, I don't know, whatever she is, her family, whatever that is. She's on the crazy side, obviously. But it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. We know because we've seen it. Every regime change ends. It doesn't end. It just fucking turns into chaos, right? Chaos is worse than bad governments. That's just the reality.
And shout out of joy, out of joy, out of joy, out of joy.
Ali Khamenei is dead! Free Iran! Free Iran!
You're not running. You said you were going to run and shout. You're just shouting. You overpromised.
Ali Khamenei is dead!
He's getting off. Is that New York? Where is she?
Oh my God, I love America. Thank you. Ali Khamenei is dead.
He's dead?
Ali Khamenei is dead.
Who is that?
I love Iran. I love America. I want to tell everyone. Yes. Oh my God, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, America.
Who's filming her? Plus, I don't think she smells very good.
God, I need to tell everyone.
Just a hunch. Boom. All right. But, the country's going to get worse. It just will. Because, this is what happens when there's regime change, right? There's regime change and, chaos is chaos. And, there might be a time in history where sometime in the future or maybe sometime in the past where people just are good people and don't commit crimes. People just, whatever negativity that's in humanity is gone, right? Whatever thing there is to act selfishly, sociopathic type personalities, narcissism, selfishness, where people just naturally sacrifice and want to contribute. There's no shittiness in people, right? There's no darkness. There's no demonic stuff. There's no ego takeover. People are just connected to their souls and they're all listening to God, and they don't need laws, right? There's people who don't need certain laws. There's people who would never murder. There's people who would never commit crime. There's people who wouldn't steal. There's people who do their best not to lie, at least in terms of consciously, right? You know, you can repeat lies that you think are truths, you know, unconsciously, but something like that, right? But you know, people who are like that, and there's these tendencies in a people, and even the worst people have good moments. They have moments of empathy and things like this, right? But you know, as long as human beings can act selfishly and act manipulate and be shitty and be demonic, then you're going to need governments, right? And governments can make it worse, which they usually do, because then the demons take over the government, that kind of thing. You know, somebody wrote something about money. I'll talk about that again. I'll restate this later. I saw one of my comments that I want to comment about. But you know, until that time where people can just do it on their own, there needs to be some kind of structure. You know, and whatever, it's a tribal structure. It doesn't have to be a national government. It could be local, but there needs to be something. There just needs to be something in order. And then, you know, you need armies because other people have armies, right? Like, you know, you don't need armies. Like, there's no, you know, like we're not, I mean, you can have whatever weapons you need to make sure you don't get eaten by animals, basically. But what else is there, right? Other people. Like, the majority of weapons are there to protect you from other people or to force your will on other people or whatever it is, right? That's why weapons exist. So, like, you know, those tendencies can be removed, and then governments become less, right? Governments, like, you don't have to have restrictions and laws because people won't do those behaviors. Anyways, but, you know, until that happens, the government is a good thing, you know, in terms of it's better than chaos. It's not a good thing. It's a bad thing that just happens to be somewhat better than a chaotic system, right? Where people are just fucking doing whatever the fuck they want to do. Because, you know, you see what happens when you take these governments away. Okay, so what has this dour dude got to say here?
Good afternoon. I'm Rachel Maddow. It is 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and you are joining MSNOW's ongoing coverage.
Okay, so all their heavy hitters, all their big-time reporters and hosts all showed up this weekend, right? So that tells you what this is, right? This is not, you know, Trump did this on Saturday, and, you know, I mean, he thinks he did it because they didn't want to do it on Monday, right? They didn't want to do it, you know, it's like a document drop. He did it at the middle of the night on Saturday and giving them 2 days of weekend where people don't watch the news, you know, this kind of thing. You know, an unpopular thing, right? It's like a document drop. But, of course, you know, it went with the prophecy, and it went with the alignment of the stars of destructive energy coming in. You know, there's these things that happen where there's certain times astrologically that are, you know, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, and this is, you know, whatever. I mean, I guess you can call this both good and bad because it brings down, you know, the destructive culture we live in, you know, negative culture, demonic culture. But look at Dow or Rachel Maddow.
The United States having apparently started a war with Iran for some reason. Your guess, your personal guess, sitting at home watching me right now, your personal guess is as good as any as to why the President of the United States has just started this war.
It's not a guess. We fucking know because we're not watching you and like fucking MSNBC and CNN. We know it's Israel. Fucking, you know, there's other reasons, but Israel had a closing window. Like, I knew this was going to happen when I said it back 6 months ago or whatever it was. I said, you know, when I saw how much the youth of America and this anti-Israeli, anti-Zionist movement was afoot, and it was on both the left and the right, and people are waking up, and people who weren't able to speak about it before because there was censorship, and it wasn't anymore. And I knew that they had Trump, and this was it. Like, this is their last opportunity. Because America's going to, you know, and not only that, they're in desperate straits. They need somebody. They can't survive without America. They're hated, and they're surrounded by enemies. And so as soon as America and Israel break up, which was inevitable, right, and they see it, you know, they're panicked. So they have a limited opportunity to get the promised land, right, which is their goal. So, you know, I said that 6 months ago because it's obvious, and, you know, now Tucker Carlson's saying it, and Rachel Maddow's like, I don't know why this is happening. So let's search to see if she says anything about Israel here. Okay, so this shows you how fucked not only she is, but her viewers are, right? Here, look. I opened up the transcript, and then I searched for Israel. So Israel will look through the comment. So the search bar, the search term, will be seen in the comments, in the title, and in the transcript, and in any of the videos that are in the sidebar. So anything that's on the screen, it'll show you. And, I made it full screen here, but it was already said 0. 0. She has a 20-minute video here on about follow the money and why, my guess is as good as yours, why this happened. And they didn't mention Israel once, even in terms of just Israel being a part of this thing, right? And not one person in the comment section mentions this, right? I mean, just, it's silly, Nobody said Israel. All right, so that tells you everything you need to know about the fucking mainstream media. Speaking of dumbasses, let's go to Don Lemons now. In support for Ayatollah Khomeini, Don Lemons has decided to do something. Either what's happened to his fucking face? I thought that was a beard, and now I'm like, what's wrong, bro? Bro, is that like you fucking like you're losing your shit over going to jail, or what's happening?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to
this is just something going on here.
The Don Lemon Show. It is bright and early, 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
Like some kind of HIV shit going on there? What's
early here? And wow, I got to tell you, I hated this morning. Just waking up to.
He hated just waking up today. It was like I don't want to get up today. I got shit all over my face.
And just waking up to this news. Because I tried to put it out of my head all weekend, but it's very difficult when you think about what's happening, that we're possibly at war. Not that we're possibly at war, that we're at war. I went to bed going, okay, this is not, maybe I'm dreaming. I don't know.
You're supposed to be a journalist. Maybe I'm dreaming this wonderful dream about Trump just launching a war. He built it up for fucking 2 weeks. We all knew this was going to fucking happen, right?
I'm sure you guys felt the same way. But anyways, first order of business.
I didn't feel the same way at all. That's not at all how I felt. I knew this was coming. I mean, it was just, inevitable. I knew it was coming for years. They've been talking about this. When Wesley Clark went on and said they were going after Iran in 2001, it's 20 years. This has been on the table before that even, right? So this was going to happen someday, and it's today, it's, Saturday.
Hit the like, hit the thumbs up. Thank you for watching from Chicago. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Let me know where you're streaming from. This is going to be a serious show because we have serious stuff.
We got serious stuff. It's serious, not the fucking usual comedy fucking clownery that we do here.
From an unserious administration. So like and thumbs up. Thank you for joining. It was a fantastic weekend. Yes, it was my birthday weekend.
Wait, it was fantastic? I thought you were you thought it was a bad dream.
Yesterday, we will talk about all of that. We went to the Image Awards. We won all of our awards. It was just a fantastic weekend. But
it's funny he's getting awarded for this. He's winning awards for this. He is winning awards for this stuff that he puts out here.
You have to deal with reality. Denver, Colorado, Detroit, everyone who's...
was it a festive mood at those awards? Was it pretty festive? Were you pretty happy there? Were you drinking, partying?
So are you guys ready for this? Again, like and thumbs up. And let me know how you feel this morning, everyone, as it relates to all this stuff that's going down, because it's really, 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 really important. So I just want to talk to you this morning because... I woke up and the first thing that I did was I picked up the phone, I grabbed my phone, and it wasn't like to check social media. It wasn't like to check mentions. I just wanted to know one thing. And are we really doing this? Are we still doing this? Are we escalating into another?
Okay, so you're under the belief that it didn't happen. You still need to be convinced. And you're going to be presenting information to people about this war. I mean, you did win an Image Award or multiple ones. You won every one. You swept the categories. That's pretty cool. But you had to check your phone to see if it was still happening. So you're not capable of really talking about it. You haven't even accepted reality yet.
Conflict with Iran, another Middle East conflict, and the answer looks like yes.
I'm pissed about this senseless war.
And it looks like it's going to last a long time. Now, before anyone, jumps in and says, well, calm down, Don. Let's just breathe and then walk through this like grown people sitting at a table.
But until then, you need to shut the fuck up when grown folks is talking.
That's from the epically good movie Black Dynamite. It's just, an amazing like spoof movie.
Do it. We're being told that this was necessary, and we know that's not true. That this was about security, and we know it was not about security. That it was about protecting Americans. It's not about that. But here's what's bothering me about this morning is that there are reports from congressional briefings that intelligence officials did not present evidence of an imminent Iranian attack on the United States. Not imminent, not something hours away, not something that forced action right this second. And that matters because when we use our military force, imminence is everything.
It is. It's imminence. There's no imminence.
If something is about to happen, that's one conversation. If something is theoretical or long-term, and then that's a very different conversation. We've been in this place for a long time with Iran, and then all of a sudden it's escalated into something that, with this urgency.
It didn't escalate. There's no escalation. There was Trump bringing in the military because he was ordered to do it because Israel's windows of opportunity was closing. Like that's the only fuck. So it's about money and power. Thanks, there, bro.
So when intelligence briefings suggest that there was no immediate ticking clock, I think it's fair to ask, why now? Why now? Let's bring in Michael Gold from the New York Times here this morning. Michael,
I don't think Michael Gold is going to blame Israel. I just going on.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We really, really, really appreciate you.
It doesn't look like Michael Gold is going to be blaming Israel.
And we know that you are very busy right now. He's
very visible. He's very, very busy, this guy. Okay. Let's do the search thing if he sees if anybody says Israel here. Okay, so this show was live, so I had to wait a while. They have to process the video, and then they can put up a transcript, which is very helpful. Because you can search through the video to see if there are certain words that are used. In this case, it's Israel. But I typed in Israel here. You can see up top. He doesn't say Israel in an hour and 7 minutes. None of his guests say Israel, and no one in the comment section says Israel. Right? Like fucking. Trump's giving his press conference right now. I mean, this is so across the board here. We'll get back to that in a second. Across the board, on all these channels and all these places, they're not even talking about Israel. Like as a, Israel clearly has wanted this forever. Right? This has been one of their stated goals, and they talk about constantly. And they're constantly talking about wanting America to do this. Like they've been wide open about it, not hinting at it, in public, talking about it. Netanyahu just came over here, or gave that that thing to the AIPAC, praising AIPAC, one of the agencies that puppets American politicians and the rest of it. His face is so fucked up, Don Lemons. But so they nobody's mentioned it here, and not in their comment section. Don talks about being not legacy media. Not legacy media would be, saying those types of things, whatever it is, right? But there's no Israel, right? There's just, and on the comments of these things, right? So, all right, so there's that. But certainly they're not talking about it in the transcript, which is, even more important. So Trump has given his speech now, and it's pretty bad. And I'm going to cover that tomorrow. And then fuel prices, I'm going to get to that, and I'm going to cover Epstein. This video feels kind of complete to me with this kind of being this part of it, is that they won't say Israel. None of them will say that this is a war that Israel is basically forcing Donald Trump to wage, and he's a fucking puppet. Like all the things they say about Donald Trump, they wouldn't have a problem saying that about Putin. They said for years that Donald Trump is Putin's puppet, that Putin has worked him, but they never said about Netanyahu. Even though America is awake to this now. And, the fuel prices are going to start kicking in, and there's going to be more inflation. And, they're going to attribute this to the war. And the people, without being told by the media, will realize this is Israel's fault, and that's just going to spend, it's going to be this thing, right? It's going to be that thing, right? So, a few more things to get to here. But that's, again, across the board, they just won't blame Israel. You could say, for example, that Israel lobbied for this, or Israel is involved in this. I mean, they're not even talking about Israel being a partner in this. Israel this is something that Israel wants. Trump was influenced by Israel. They don't have to call him a puppet. This is like anything like that. They could just mention Israel. Just say the fucking name, right? It's like Voldemort. They won't even fucking say it, right? And so they're Voldemorting it. All right, so let's get to the other stuff here. Okay, so this morning I opened up my phone and there was a recommendation from Twitter from Marjorie Taylor Greene, former QB, former MAGA, now just angry American. This bitch is celebrating the death of American members and thanking their families for their blood sacrifice. This bitch here. Laura Loomer. 3 U.S. service members have been killed in action in part of Operation Epic Fury. American heroes, God bless them and their families. This thing here. Laura Loomis, the, most unlikable person on the internet possibly. Loomer lost 2 congressional races because nobody respected or valued her enough to elect her. But this is who Trump takes late night calls from and laps up her with praise and worship. Loomer hated Charlie Kirk because he spoke out against war with Iran, same as I do. War with Iran is America last, and we voted against it the same way voters voted against Loomer twice. And now Americans once again are coming home in the flag-draped coffins after another stupid, pointless foreign war for foreign regime change on behalf of Israel. And Laura Loomer demanded it, begged for it. Sign up for the military, Laura. Go to the front lines, Laura. Maybe then they'll give you a gun. You don't love Trump enough unless you go fight for Iran yourself. So there's that. Luma, she's been Loomered. So they did some live video feed here, like it was halfway in the middle where they're talking about the Iranian hostage crisis in the beginning here, right? This fucking clown.
28 days that Americans have been held hostage in Iran.
The 2 twinks.
Every single day, like a drip.
Carter was thrown out of office over this.
Yes. And it was a huge psychological shock that a foreign country would just torment dozens of Americans taken hostage.
Yeah, like this was when I was in fucking high school, right? Like, I'm old as fuck. This is, are you serious? Are you talking about this? This is what now we're doing this. We're getting payback for the hostage crisis. So then here they talk about Charlie.
But that's one indication. Very, very interesting that I'm getting.
Since we're waiting on Alex Marlow, we have a very good clip featuring him where he was speaking with Charlie about this conflict, and it's a good statement of Charlie's attitude, which I know a lot of people are interested how he would respond to this, which was that
it's the 3 twinks today.
He has
three beta males sharing one testicle.
His personal biases, his personal beliefs, but he has also, as an American citizen, a tendency to place trust in President Trump, which is why he supported him. Let's play 249.
I think that we need to also differentiate for everyone keeping score online, where they say, oh my goodness, Donald Trump started a new war. It is very conceivable that if he bombs those 2 cities, that is not a new war. Now, Iran could retaliate, and then what happens after that? But I trust President Trump 100% in this moment. He's a man made for this moment. Understand?
Yeah, I agree with you. Really, Charlie? Fucking Charlie Shekels.
For all of this, he took out Soleimani. He took out ISIS. He is able to navigate that.
He took out ISIS by not ordering ISIS, which was an American asset. Don't lie to your people, Charlie. Charlie Kirk from the grave.
So that's the hope I think we're all having, is that we lived through the Bush administration, for example, which had a very open-ended approach to wars. Go into Afghanistan, drop thousands
of Breitbart joining any moment now. As an instinct, bad. Okay, fine. But Charlie,
all right, so I show you the other clip. So these guys are, let's not watch them, but let's go to the comments because that's always fun. So the very first comment, Charlie did not want this. I remember when Charlie didn't want us to go to war with Iran. I remember when they said he wouldn't use Charlie Twitter, yet they are broadcasting on his channel what happened to Charlie TPUSK. You all get your own channel. Leave this one as a memorial for Charlie instead of burying his content. But the amount of subscribers he gained, you hear, would be hard to walk away from, wouldn't it? Well, they don't have subscribers. They got 50,000 views on this, right? Which is nothing for something where, people would be looking for. Imagine if Charlie Kirk was doing this today, talking about the Iranian war. He would have millions of viewers, right? So, there doesn't matter how many anyway. You are a disgrace. This part of the reason why you get 10 to 20,000 views. Charlie's against Iran war. Period. You aren't Charlie. So go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. What's the H for? Get the fuck out of here. That's close. And change the name of the show. Who are these people? They're the three twinks, three beta males sharing one testicle. Charlie was openly and publicly in opposition to the war with Iran. These so-called friends of Charlie Kirk made it easy to believe that they are morally capable of assisting in this execution. Funny you picked the clip of Charlie that supports the war, but there are other clips of him disagreeing. Why not play those clips? Did Charlie think we should go to war with Iran? This person asked. Change the name of this change the name, you deplorable grifters. Idiots say they're getting into with Iran is a good thing. I will say this, if you truly feel the deep about it, go recruiting station and sing yourself and your children up for war. Sign yourself up for war. You know, this person. No. Charlie was all against another war in the Middle East. I think this is insane. They can sit and twist the war with Charlie himself did not want this war. I am not skipping any comments, and they have been deleting these comments. I guess they didn't do it here. R.I.P. Charlie, God bless all of us. They have not had, they're getting totally ratioed here. I mean, 100% ratioed. Have any of you all been enlisted in active troops? Charlie was against war for Israel. I bet Erica is pro-war, though. Clowns. You guys get everything but reality on your side. You guys got everything but reality on your side. Charlie, so this is 50,000 views, and all of it is like people like, fuck you. This is like them all saying, coming here to say, fuck you. Charlie Kirk, we are just going to take out Ayatollah. Oh, really? What comes next? What comes after regime change? This is his quote. Oh, well, we need a small number of U.S. troops to support the new regime. We have seen this play before. That's him saying that, Charlie, from the grave. I miss you, Charlie. Sometimes it feels like all the common sense has gone out of the door. Never I've missed Charlie Kirk's commentary more than right now. Still smiling. Still did fucking... I think it's kind of sick to use this account to post. Should have left all his socials out there. This show is not good without Charlie. Gaslighting 101. Charlie's never supported this war ever. So this is the 100% ratio to 100% fucked. These beta males and their little pal today. And, you know, so that's that. Okay, so let's check on with it. Miss Erica J. Kirk. She's an entrepreneur. It says here somewhere. Did she get, entrepreneurs, right there. Right here she is with Charlie. Back when, they pretended they were married. And no comment from her, even though she's the CEO of TPUSK. And she's a person. There's no, maybe, wait, well, let's go over here. Erica, what you got anything to say? Erica, what do you got? Erica? Looking, Erica, what do you got, Erica? What do you think about the Iraqi or the Iranian war and Trump? Fuck. All right, that's fucking scary. Okay, so like I said, this video is going up tomorrow afternoon, and I'll cover the Trump thing. It was just so bad. I got a bunch of thank you for your service stuff to get in there. There's this one angle I was watching on CNN. CNN didn't put it. Maybe they'll put their live thing up, their coverage of it up. I don't know. But they had an angle where Trump looks at the camera, and I looked at all these other ones. I was watching it while I eat lunch, and I'm like, oh, that's a great moment. But it's a camera, must be CNN's camera, and he looks at it with just like he's a beaten dog. I'll talk about that tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll be able to find that because CNN's is not broadcasting it live on YouTube. Anyways, so here's the thing. I have one comment to get to, and this will be good. I can get out of this somewhat easy. Is this another comment? Maybe no, that's just one comment. All right, good. Get out of that one. Okay, so someone wrote, money is the root of all evil and creates a permanent caste system. We don't need money to live. It has to go if we want happy lives. So if you take away money, I say this all the time, and I don't know why, it just falls on deaf ears, but we have a people problem. It's 100% about people. People have to change, and not because they're forced to change, not because there are rules, not because people are, made to do a certain thing, and they're scared of going to hell, fear of hell, and and, promise of heaven, none of that bullshit. No selfish reasons. No promises of, 70 virgins and a mule, getting laid in heaven, no promises of any kind of thing like this. So what needs to happen is there are qualities that people have that are good. And there are qualities that people have that are bad. There's a lower nature and a higher nature in human beings. And we all, embrace our higher nature at times and our lower nature at other times. And the lower nature has to go. It has to be completely erased. And you can't have jealousy, right? With or without money, you're going to have jealousy. You're going to have envy, right? You're going to have hatred. You're going to have fear. You're going to have greed. You're going to have, all these things, pride, lust, all these things, right? Things that are, not doing the right thing, not following your higher nature, only doing the right thing, like, not making mistakes, not making like big mistakes, like smaller mistakes, understandable mistakes, sure, but nothing huge, no murder, no robbery, no crime. So if you think that everybody, well, let's talk about sexual abuse, right? And physical abuse, because that fucks people up. And then being lied to and manipulated, getting your heart broken. I mean, most people would rather get punched in the face than get, their heart broken. I mean, it's, one thing heals and it's physical. I mean, again, there's trauma to that because it's also emotional, especially if it's a loved one. But the pain, like in a car accident or just, walking into a, hitting your head or something, just falling down and breaking your arm. That sucks. But, when someone breaks your trust and takes advantage of you and manipulates you, all the evil shit that people do. And that's coming from people. It's not coming because the system sucks or because there's money or any of these other things. It's coming because people fucking suck, and we all have to get rid of the suck inside of ourselves. And there's a system, a Sajmark system of cleaning, which removes these things, and transmission, which brings about the higher nature and the connection to God. And I talk about it all the time, and no one really thinks about trying it, and very few people do, here and other places. And, I mean, that's fine if they don't want to believe that and they don't think that's going to work, but you could try it, right? But if you didn't try it, you could try something to change. Like you could recognize your lower nature. You can recognize, when you lie and when all the negative things you're doing, and seeing that you could be a better person, because all of us could be a better person. And very few people are working on being a better person. They're looking at everyone else and waiting for them to change. So, that's the problem. Until that problem is addressed, it's always going to suck here. It doesn't matter if there's communism or capitalism or money or no money. It doesn't matter of any of those things, right? It's a matter of human nature. I once thought that these tribal people were pure, and then I found out they took slaves and they had these wars and they had, all this stuff, and they had physical and sexual abuse, and they had all these tribal, long before they were, that they were contaminated by white people. They were, they had the same bullshit. Like this has gone on for, thousands of years, right? And it's a problem, like historically and in every other possible way. The animalistic behavior, the wars, the greed, all the things that people do, to do bad shit, right? There isn't a peaceful, harmonious type of situation with humanity, where you didn't have any laws because people don't need laws. Like people won't do the wrong things, right? They don't need 10 commandments because they would never do those things. And that comes with a deep connection to God and, seeking to be a better version of yourself and asking God's permission to do things. Because you can dialogue with God and God can let you know whether to do something or not. And people would laugh at that idea because they don't want to talk to God. They're hiding away from God. They want to, do their little dirty little things in the darkness of their own creation and, get away with these little insidious things, and then it gets pulled to light and they just find a way to try to minimize the consequences, never thinking about only, apologizing and having a, mea culpa moment to save themselves, from the public scrutiny and try to, win back their trust or whatever, never thinking how I have to be a better person. So it's 100% that. It's always going to be that. There's a system that does that, and I can say for the people that do it, the Sajmark system, we all improved, but, not as good as we should be. So, I mean, even using a system that's effectively for changing people. And again, I have a master's degree in counseling, and I'm in the change business. That's what I do here, and, within myself. and I could do a lot better. And like, we all could that have done the system. And most people aren't actively in the pursuit of becoming better and changing and thinking about, how to improve in some way. I mean, on a character level, like how many people are trying to embrace higher character qualities? I mean, the young people don't even know what that word means. They're not even taught that shit, right? And so until that becomes something where people can achieve a certain level where their lower nature is, erased or divinized in some way, disappears, then there's never going to be anything like, there's never going to be a utopia anyway, but you can't blame money for that. Like, it's just, money is like anything else, is a power that's misused. The same thing with guns and all these other things that people want to, it's a people problem. It's the gun itself that isn't the problem. I mean, certainly guns are a weapon, and there's kids that shouldn't have them, young people, mentally ill people, lots of them, people who are just not mentally mature, just like a car is a weapon, and people are using it all the time, and it's, intentionally or not. I mean, all these things. And then there's all these other weapons and drones and shit, and, all these things that we're not capable of handling because we don't have the maturity to handle them, right? And all the other things that we have. So, like, people aren't where we need to be. And until that happens, none of these other things matter. Like, if you're blaming power, it's the misuse of power. Like, only people with poor character misuse power. People who seek power usually are going to seek it because they misuse it. All right, so that's it. I'm going to wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.